Hi all, my name is Ignacio and today we will talk about performance testing. Performance testing is a process that comes in the picture when we have an application and we need to assure that the application can handle the number of users that is expected and then can be escalated appropriately as the user base grows. The most common tests in performance testing are baseline tests, peak tests, duration tests, and also we have capacity tests and volume tests. With each kind of test, you're creating simulations that mimic a certain number of virtual users on your site at any given time. The difference lies in the question that they ask and the kind of issues that you are specifically looking for. Now, a load test is a test that's designed to look at how the application responds under different amounts of load. With this testing, you are going to be focused on the number of users connected to the application at any given time. But here the question is, how the application responds with X number of users? Well, when referring to the number of users in a load test scenario, you're going to be thinking about them in two different ways. The first thing you're going to be concerned is about the concurrent users. It refers to the number of users with an active connection to your site at the same time. Now, the second thing you're going to be concerned about is simultaneous users. What it refers to is to the number of users that are performing the exact same action at the exact same time. Concurrency is always going to be your primary concern because in reality, the number of users doing the same activity at the exact point of time is always going to be much smaller than the number of users actively connected to your applications. This does not mean that you should ignore it, but it's an important distinction to make. If you want your data to be meaningful, you want your simulation to be as close to real life scenario as possible. A performance test is concerned with the time that it takes for an operation to complete under different kind of load. Some important metrics that we use to check in the performance tests is the response time and the TPS or transaction per second. But continue with the topic. Some examples may be a user logging in, accessing some information that is pulled from a database, or perhaps degrading information to the database, for example. Regardless of what the action is, the question is typically how long does it take to process and execute the step or operation. But well, now we're gonna talk about the different types of tests. Well, first we have the baseline test. This is a performance test that is executed with a normal load for the application. This test basically will validate if the application is able to manage the baseline load that will be the normal load. Then we have the peak test. That is a test that is executed with the peak load. This test will validate if the application is able to manage the peak load, and we get the detail about what is the peak, getting, for example, the data from 1 month, checking the hours, and analyzing the times. We will get what is the peak load for certain times, and then we will get the average. That is the way in which we can calculate what is the peak load. Then we have the duration test. This test is executed for an extended period of time and can be set with the baseline or peak load. Basically, this test will help to determine if there is any issue with the application, any degradation or memory leak. After that, we have the capacity test. This test is executed to determine your server ultimate failure point. Basically, we keep adding users until we reach the breakpoint. Now, a capacity test is concerned with the maximum number of users that your application can handle. It lets you know the extent to which you can scale given your current configuration. It can also be helpful to validate any redundant or backup systems that you may have in place. After that, we have the volume test. This test is executed with a huge volume of data. As example, we can think in a process in which we are getting a report of transactions made in a bank. For this test, we will use the test data that has linked a big number of transactions. One test data can be one account that has, for example, linked 56 transactions in a week. Now imagine that the performance test with several virtual users will use all those accounts that has a lot of transactions. For each test of the ones that I commented, either baseline, peak, duration, capacity, or volume, we're going to want to be looking at the average. The large systems are typically not deterministics, meaning that you can always predict exactly how the things are going to behave. There are typically a lot of processes that are executed in parallel, so you can always be sure what is the exact result that you will get. You are going to want to run each test multiple times so that you can analyze your data across your test runs. And this is something that is extremely important to keep in mind for your planning. These performance tests take time. Aside from the time that you need to spend writing your tests, there are also executions times that has to be taken into account. A test can run for hours or even days. There is some kind of problems such small memory leak that you won't detect during a small test, but they can appear over the time. And that's all for today, folks. I really appreciate your interest in this topic and keep learning. Thanks.